Section 2.4, Product and Quotient Rules. Find the derivative of the function. So I already showed one example of how to use the product rule, and that is just shown right here, just for reference. Now I want to do an example using the quotient rule. So the quotient rule says to find the derivative of a function where you have some subparts f of x divided by another subpart g of x. You can follow this formula and that will give you the derivative. So g of x, the bottom, times the derivative of the top, f prime of x, minus f of x, the top, times the derivative of the bottom, all over the bottom squared. And that will give you the derivative of your original function f of x divided by g of x. So some problems you can break down and use the product rule. Some you can use the quotient rule. You should get the same answer unless you have a mistake with your algebra or something like that, because a derivative is a derivative no matter how you slice it. So let's go ahead and do number 36. 36 here is f of x is equal to x plus 1 over the square root of x. So got that on our notepad here. So let's go ahead and break this down. We're going to want to identify our f of x. In this case, I'll call it h of x, just so we don't get it screwed up, because the prompt is asking us to use an f of x. So let's write our h of x. Our h of x is the top part, so it's equal to x plus 1. And so now we need to find h prime of x, because we're going to need that. So h prime of x is equal to, if we use the product rule here, 1. Now we need our g of x. G of x is going to be equal to the square root of the bottom. Well, excuse me, it's just the square root of x. G prime of x is going to be equal to the derivative of this. So we need to find the derivative of x to the 1/2. So if we write this as x to the 1/2 power, we can use the product rule on this, and we know that we can bring the 1/2 down and subtract 1 from the top. We are left with 1/2 x to the minus 1/2 power. Another way of writing that is 1/2 times 1 over square root of x. Cool. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and write out our quotient rule. So g of x, our square root of x, is the first part here, so square root of x, times f prime of x, h prime in this case, so just 1, minus our h of x, right, because we're using h instead of f, so minus x plus 1 times g prime, which is 1/2 1 over the square root of x. And now all of this is going to be divided by the bottom squared. And because you have a square root x in the bottom, your g of x squared is going to be just x. So let's go ahead and do some algebra and write this out. This is f prime, sorry. Let's go ahead and do some algebra and write this out in a different way. So square root of x minus 1/2 1 over square root x times x. That's just going to be a square root of x over 2, right? Minus, because we got to distribute that minus sign, 1/2 square root x all over x. Now square root x and a minus square root x over 2, we can simplify that as just square root x over 2 minus 1/2 square root x all over x. Now we can factor a little bit from that, so we can break that up into square root of x over 2x minus 1/2 x times what's on the top, which is just a 1 over square root x. I don't think we're going to be able to make this look any prettier. As a general rule, you're not supposed to leave rationals in the bottom, right? So you multiply the top and bottom by square root x. So you can make an x on the bottom and a square root x on the top. So I think the prettiest we're going to be able to make this is 1 over 2x factor square root x minus square root x over x. And I think that's the prettiest we're going to be able to make this. And that's how you can use a quotient rule.